What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy MaximusBlack with another real estate video, and I'm really excited to give you guys this one because this is, in my opinion, the absolute best way to build equity and scale your real estate portfolio with recycling the same original funds over and over and over again. And this method is called the BRRRR method. Now, I've done this method several times. I have managed to build my real estate portfolio mainly off the backs of doing this. So hopefully you guys can learn a thing or two here and potentially implement this in your own real estate journey. Before we get started, I'm looking for 50 likes on this video. If you guys are enjoying the real estate content, make sure to hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 50. And if you have any questions about this method or any other real estate questions, leave them in the comment section below and I'll be sure to answer them on a future video. Now, before we get into this, there are a couple of things that I want to explain that is very important for this to work. Number one, and the most important thing, and it's actually the B in the BRRRR, is the buy. And the most important part of this is you must buy a property that needs work and there is potential to add value to bring up the value of the property, the ARV, the after repair value, so that way you can tap into that forced equity and pull that out. Now, what I mean by that is this. If you have 10 triplexes on a street and all of these triplexes, when they're upgraded, they're rented at market rents, etc., that the peak that you're seeing is it's worth $700,000, you do not want to buy a $700,000 triplex because it's going to be very difficult for you to get that triplex to be worth $900 if everything else, all the comps, are down at $700. If that's the case, you're going to want to buy a triplex that is a fixer-upper that needs a lot of work or some strategic work to bring up the value. So you want to purchase a triplex at around $500,000, knowing that you can put some money in there to replicate like the other triplexes that are worth $700. So that way, when you get it reappraised, that the adjuster can go, oh wow, okay, these ones are at $700. This one is this new triplex that you've put money into seems comparable. I think we can give this a $700,000 valuation. So the buy is the most important part. Do not think that you can do the BRRRR strategy if you're buying a property at market. There's just no meat on the bone, okay? So the buy. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm actually going to give you an example. There's a lot of videos out there that don't really break it down, but I'm going to break it down for you guys very quickly. Now, you can do this with commercial, like larger 5+ units, and you can also do this with single family. For the purposes of this video, we're going to do a triplex. So say you bought a triplex for $500,000. Okay? Now, you've done your research, you've looked around, you go, okay, I've looked at all these properties, $500,000 for this triplex, it needs some work. But the other triplexes in the area are worth $700. I think that I can strategically put renovations into this and bring this value up, okay? So that's the B. That's the buy. The most important part right there. Again, I'm going to say it one more time. This is important. You must buy a property at a discount, okay? You can find them on the MLS, and it's even better if you can find them private, okay? Now, time for the R. The first R, okay, is the rehab. All right. So you've bought the property. Now you got to identify what type of rehab you can do to raise up the value. So you bought that $500,000 triplex at a discount and you decide that I'm going to put $50,000 into renovations, into rehab. Okay. So you are now in the deal for $550,000 because you've purchased it at $500,000 and you put $50K in renovations. Now, these renovations, so for example, before I get ahead of myself, if you were to rent out this triplex as is, you might only get $1,000 a month per unit, right? Times 3 because it's a triplex. So that's going to be bringing in $3,000 a month in rent. But you figure you put $50K in, you do some landscaping, you make the outside look nice. Maybe you need some new siding, some new windows. But most importantly, you get in there, you put in 3 new kitchens, 3 new bathrooms, 3 new sets of all new flooring, paint, etc., etc. And now you've managed to be able to rent these out for $1,500 a month, and you brought that up to market rents, which is what those other triplexes are going for in that area, okay? And again, the triplexes here is just an example. This could be a single family home, this could be a duplex, this could be a 10-unit apartment building, right? But we're just doing the triplexes. So now you're getting $1,500 a month times 3 is you're getting $4,500 a month in rents, okay? This is important. This is very important. Okay? So, you've rehabbed it. Great. What is next? Up next is, oh no, sorry. I skipped a step. I'm getting ahead of myself. That is the rent. Now, I've already explained that, right? The $4,500, you got to rent it out. So, after you rehab it, you're going to turn over those units, right? Maybe you got this triplex, it was vacant. I've done this in the past. Or, you know, maybe it took some time and you didn't renew leases with the old tenants. They moved out, you did the rehab work, and now you're getting market rent. So now the rent is $45. And now we're going to the next R, which is the refinance, the refi. Now, this is where things get interesting. This is where the power of all this happens. So, you bought the property, you put the $50,000 in renovations, you've rented it out. Now you're going to call your bank, your lender, and you're going to say, hey, listen, I did a whole bunch of work. I got these rented out. This can be in a short period of time. This could be 3 months in. This could be 9 months in. This could be a year in, 2 years. I don't know, right? But you've called them up and you said, hey, I want you to get an appraisal out there, and I want to get this property reappraised, and I want to get an 80% loan to value. Now, up here, when you bought it for $500K, right, you had to put 20% down. So you are in, okay, I'm going to write this out. So your original price was $500,000. You had to put 20% down. So you had to put $100,000 in cash, okay? There's going to be $10,000-ish in closing costs, all right? And then you did your rehab for $50,000. So remember, you are all in for $160,000, okay? Because you've got your down payment, you've got your closing costs, that's your lawyer fees, your transfer taxes, etc. Might be a little bit more, might be a little bit less, depending on where you live. And then you've got your rehab. So that equals $160,000 is what you are in for. Whoops. Let me go down here. Perfect. $160,000. All right. So that means you have a $400,000 mortgage. Because remember, you put $100K, it's a $500,000 purchase price. That's your loan. All right. Perfect. Now, with that loan, I'm going to do some quick maths here on the fly. At a $500,000 purchase price, 20% down, 25-year AM at 4%. Okay, your loan payment is going to be $2,640, and then there's going to be about $5,500 in property tax. Divide that a year. Divide that by 12, so $458 plus $2,640. So your original mortgage payment is going to be about $3,100 a month. Okay. Now, remember, you've got other expenses, right? So you might have to add another $1,000 on there because you've got maintenance, you've got vacancy, you have to pay water, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, this is just your mortgage payment, okay? Now, let's scroll down here. Okay? You've called your bank up. Now, this is your original loan. Now, you've called your bank up and you said, I want to get it reappraised. It is so important that you do your homework. You should have already done your homework, but what I suggest is you print out 3 or 4 comps, comparables of those other triplexes on that street or in that area, and you go to the location when the appraisal is happening. You speak to him or her and you say, hey, listen, I put this amount of money into it. I believe that this property is worth $700,000, and here is why. And you show the comparables. You say, hey, this place is getting $4,500 a month in rent, so on and so forth. Now, they may not give you $700,000, right? But at least it's in their mind, and they know like your plan. And when you go there, I highly suggest not going there in a fancy car. Humble yourself, because appraisals are human as well, right? So just go there, be nice, show them the facts, show them what you've done, tell them why you think it's worth, and it's still up to them what they think, okay? So they're going to go there, and they come back to the bank, and they say, hey, listen, we went there, we checked it out. We think that your property, I'm going to go down to this next page here. We think that your property now was worth originally, or you paid $500 for it. You wanted it to be worth $700, but we think it's worth $650,000. So that is your ARV, after repair value. So remember, you paid $500, okay? You put $50 into it, so you're in for $550, but now it's worth $650. Congratulations. You've gone and you have made $100,000 in sweat equity. You've added $100,000 in your net worth, but that's great. That's all on paper, but how do we tap into that money? That's the most important part. So you're going to go, okay, bank, it's worth $650. I want to get an 80% loan to value on the new after repair value. So we bring out the calculator here. $650,000 times 0.8 is $520,000. Whoops. Is what they're willing to give you as a loan. Okay? Man, that writing is terrible. I'm terribly sorry. $520,000 is going to be your new loan amount, okay? Now, they're going to want to make sure that you're still cash flowing, right? Because now you're bringing in $4,500, because if you take out more money, that means your mortgage payments are going to go up, right? So at 520, I got a mortgage calculator here, but at $520,000, same, you are going to be looking at, what was that, 2744. Bear with me. 5,500 divided by 12, so 458 plus 2745. So your new mortgage payment is going to be about $3,200. Now, this includes your taxes, your interest, and your mortgage payment. They're going to want to make sure that your new income, your gross income, that $4,500 in rent, is going to be able to cover this plus expenses. And it's looking pretty good, right? It's like at $3,200. You might have to add another, $800 to $1,000 in monthly expenses on top of that. You're still going to be cash flowing, even if you did $1,000. So another $1,000 here. So that's $4,200. You're still going to be cash flowing $300 a month. Okay? Cash flow. So that's after all expenses. That's $100 a door. It's nothing to write home about or anything, but the part that you want to write home about is this part. Okay? So the reason why I'm showing you this is because the bank is not going to give you an 80% LTV if you're in a negative cash flow, right? If that's the case, then they may go 75% or 70%, okay? But here, this works out, so this is perfect. And I'm doing this on the fly, right? So I didn't pre-plan all these numbers. I'm just kind of doing it on the fly. And these type of deals you can find. Like, seriously, I've done them. Okay, so let's get back to the fun part. So they're going to give you a loan of $520,000, all right? You got to pay back your old loan because you had a $400,000 loan before, okay? Right here. This is your old loan. So you've got a difference of $120,000, right? So you've got your original $400,000 loan, and you're getting a new 520. The difference is $120,000 is what you're going to be able to pull out of this deal. So this part is the incredible part. So they're going to give you the loan. You got to get rid of this old loan, okay? Now there's a $120,000 spread. And remember, you still have equity in this. You still have to leave that 20% in, okay? So you're still going to have 20% of 520 grand into the deal. 104 grand. So you still have $104,000 in equity into this deal. Plus you're pulling out $120,000 in cash. Okay? Here's the incredible part. This is debt, which means you do not pay tax on debt. So this is just money that they are going to wire to your account, or they're just going to write you a check for $120,000. Now, there's things that people don't realize when you do this. There's going to be fees involved, right? You might be breaking a mortgage contract, so you might have to pay 3 months of interest. You know, there's little tiny fees and things, so you know you might have to take away $2,000 or $3,000 off this 120. But overall, you now have a new mortgage of $520,000, and now you have $120,000 in cash. Now this is the amazing part. Remember, up here you put in $100,000 down. You put $50,000 in renovations. $50,000 in renovations, $100,000 down, and then the $10,000 in closing costs. So you were in for $160,000, okay? So now you're in for $160,000. You've pulled out $120,000. Now you only have $40,000 left into the deal of your own cash. All right? But you've still managed to pull out $120,000. Now you take that $120,000 and you do the last R in the BRRRR, right? BRRRR. And you repeat the process. Now you take this $120,000 and you go and buy yourself another triplex, right? And that'll give you enough for the down payment and another closing cost. Yeah, you might have to put in a little bit more money again, but this is so much easier than saving up another $160,000. And remember, this $120,000 is debt. Okay? So you're not paying tax on it, but you are repaying it via the loan. Or it's not really you, it's going to be your tenants that are paying now that $4,500 in gross rents that you're getting. And the crazy part is, like, yeah, you might only be cash flowing $300 a month, okay? You might be only cash flowing $300 a month, but when you think about it, you've only got $40,000 left in the deal. So $300 a month times 12, 300 times 12, because there's 12 months in a year, that is $3,600 a year in cash flow. But remember, you only have $40,000 into the deal. Okay? So you're getting an 11%, 3,600 divided into the 40,000. Oh, sorry. Not 11. You're getting a 9% cash on cash return. On that $40,000 a year. That's pretty damn good, right? Because remember, you only had $40,000 before in there because you've pulled out your money. So you're still making a good damn profit. Not to mention, every month when you're making those, when you're making that new mortgage payment, because remember, your mortgage payment has gone up. When you're making that new mortgage payment of what, 30, I forget what it was. It was $3,200, I think. A part of that is going towards the principal. So you're going to be making money on the principal pay down, the cash on cash return, and that triplex is going to go up 1 to 3, maybe 5% a year in appreciation depending on your market. So you're going to be making all of that, plus you've got your tax write-offs as well. right? So you're going to be able to write off your interest. You can depreciate the property. You're not going to pay any tax on the on this income, right? If you got to get a good accountant and all that stuff. So it's very, very powerful. And then you've taken that 120 grand and you've bought another triplex, and that triplex is going to cash flow. And it's going to also be principal pay down, appreciation, tax write-offs, and it snowballs, and it snowballs, and it snowballs, and it snowballs. So yes, this isn't the perfect BRRRR, right? It's really tough in this day and age to be able to get your full 160 out unless you're buying really, really, really good, because interest rates are higher. You know, when I did my big BRRRR back in the day, my interest rate was 1.67%, right? I did do a BRRRR a couple of years ago. I bought a property for 1.1 million, or sorry, a little over $1 million. And then we got it, it was 8 units, so 4 duplexes. And then in 2 years and 3 months, it was worth 2.1 million. And then what did we do? We paid the fee to break the mortgage term. We pulled out $750,000. So we tapped into the majority of that added value, paid ourselves back, and then we went and bought a 15-unit apartment building that is now cash flowing $5,000 to $7,000 a month right now. And if you want to check out those videos, I have those on this channel as well. So that's the BRRRR strategy. Again, we'll go over it very, very quickly. I got a little oh, I want to show you guys this. This right here is a book that I listen to via audiobook. It's called BRRRR, the Buy, Rehab, Rent, Refinance, Repeat by David Green. I highly suggest going to check this book out. I'm not affiliated with David Green at all or Bigger Pockets, but I really enjoyed this book, and it goes into this in great detail. There are pros and there are cons of the BRRRR method, and it becomes harder as interest rates get higher and higher. But again, this is a great way to recycle capital. And there are many ways that you can get capital. If you have a home, you can use your home equity line of credit for this money and then repay that home equity line of credit back when you do the cash out refinance. Maybe you're doing a hard money loan where you're paying a little bit extra in interest from somebody that believes in the project that you're doing, and then you're paying off that hard money loan. Or maybe you have that $160,000 in cash for the down payment, the closing costs, and the rehab, and you're just paying yourself back and you're reusing it. That's what I've always done, but I understand that a lot of people don't have that much money, so there are ways to get money and then use the refi on the BRRRR to pay back the loan that you got from somewhere else. But I would highly suggest not getting a hard money loan or using somebody else's money, OPM, if you really don't know what you're doing, right? Because it's whenever you start borrowing money from somebody else, you have a responsibility to make sure that you know what you're doing, and you are going to pay those individuals back plus interest, okay? But yes, that's it. The last thing I wanted to go over very quickly was a very fast overview of this, again, underneath. So you're going to buy the property. You're going to purchase an undervalued property. That's very important. It's the most important part, really. You're going to rehab it. So you're going to put in strategic rehabs. You don't want to overdo it, because when you overdo it, then you're not going to remember, especially in residential, it's not necessarily about the income. All right. It's about the comparables. So you don't want to over renovate and then you're just going to leave more money into the deal. You want to do it just enough to get it to market value and then rent it out from there. And then you're going to refinance it. You're going to pull that original money out to fund the next project, and then you're going to repeat it. Let me know what you guys think. I know I'm talking very fast. I just didn't want this to be a 40-minute video. Is there something I missed in there? You know, there's the small fees, that sort of stuff. But this is an incredible tool to use to scale your real estate portfolio and use the same money over and over and over again. And if you're really good at this and you really get a steal of a deal, you might have $0 into the deal after you do your refi. And it's totally okay if you still have 10% of your original money in there, 5% of your original money in there, 50% of your original money in there, if you're okay with that, because you're still going to get a nice chunk out so that you can use those funds to go and buy the next property. There it is. Thank you so much, guys. Hit the like button. We're looking for 50 likes, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace out.